Hi, I'm Amy, thank you for tuning in. This is my January wrap-up video and I'm really excited to talk about the books I read this month because it was a really strong reading month for me. I didn't read loads of books, but I read books that were absolutely brilliant, so let's get to talking about them. The first book I read was an audiobook of Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison, and I'm really excited that Rachel Harrison is becoming one of my favourite authors. I very rarely add new authors to this list because I think I know exactly what I like, and it's quite rare that somebody fits into the exact niche of what I'm looking for in a book, and Rachel Harrison just does it. Such Sharp Teeth is the story of a woman who goes home to help her sister who is pregnant and about to give birth, and she gets bitten by a werewolf and ends up slowly transforming. And what I really liked about this book is I've read werewolf transformation books before, but I love the fact that this felt really modern. It felt like a woman in modern times, like in the present day, going through this, and it just felt really fresh and feminist. I loved the interactions between characters. They felt really believable, the family and romantic relationships. And do you ever read a book that just feels like a breath of fresh air? It's exactly what you're looking for. You absolutely race through it. I just loved it. So definitely, I don't really star rate books, but if I did, it would definitely be a 5-star book for me. Next, I wanted to talk about the YA Book Club pick. Catch Your Death by Ravina Garon was the pick that we read in January. And another favourite, this is probably one of my favourite books that we have read for the book club. It's very much an Agatha Christie style story, which Ravina herself mentioned when I interviewed her. I'll put the link in the description if you want to watch that. And it just reads like a fresh modern take on an Agatha Christie locked room mystery. A woman is holding a dinner in a locked room in her stately home with members of her family when she is murdered, and there are 3 guests in the house who get together and try and figure out what happened. I really like the fact that this has mixed media in it. I like the fact that it has a present day past dimension. I always think that's super interesting when there's different timelines in a book. And I feel sometimes I get a little bit jaded when I'm reading mysteries because I read so many and I write them quite often. I think I find it fairly easy to predict, not always, but I often know what to look for and I spot the clues and the red herrings, and this one was so good at seeding clues and seeding red herrings that some of the twists I guessed, but most of them I didn't, and that is always such a fun thing for me as a reader. So I highly recommend this one. I'm going to check out This Book Kills because I think I read a sample of that when it came out. I think I had a sample on my Kindle or something like that, so I feel like I've read a little bit of this book, but I do need to read it properly because this was so good. Next, I did another book club, which was the Haunted Victorian Book Club. I was on the live show for it. I'll also link that in the description if you'd like to watch it. It's run by Elizabeth Sagewood, who is a brilliant horror tuber. She reads lots of books about vampires, lots of vintage fiction. I would highly recommend subscribing to her channel. And we chatted about this book and I asked if I could go on to discuss it. I have to say, this is not my favourite classic. I absolutely love the premise, love the story, but some of the writing just fell a little bit flat for me. When we discussed it on the live show, quite a few of us had this feeling about it. I think for me, the characterisation I found a little bit weak. The atmosphere and the setting were absolutely great, and the character of the Phantom himself I found super interesting, but it was the supporting characters and the other main characters around him. I was quite disappointed, and it is one of those classics where quite a few elements of it have not held up to the present day, and there are things in there that I don't think even in that day, the time when it was written, there are things in it that wouldn't have been okay. So please check the content warnings on this one if you think about reading it. I think because of the atmosphere and because it's made me want to watch the films, I'm glad I read it, but on balance, it, as I said, not my favourite classic. Next, another book club. It was really the month of book clubs for me. Shelley, Toy and I, as part of the Point Horror Book Club, have read all 3 of the Forbidden Game books, which are my favourite point horrors. Shelley runs this monthly club that is absolutely brilliant where they read a point horror a month and discuss it on Instagram Live, and I've been able to discuss these 3 books with Shelley. So quite often with trilogies, says the person who has written a trilogy, I find that they don't always sustain my interest. Sometimes it feels like the pacing goes, or sometimes it feels like there's not enough going on to sustain 3 books. But this one, I have to say, really ups its game in the 3rd book. I thought the 2nd book was good. I thought the 1st book was really good, but I thought this one was brilliant. It tied up the trilogy really well. It had a whole new dimension of body horror that I actually found quite scary. It gave me nightmares when I was younger. And there are two instances in particular that still were really scary to me as a grown-up. It came to a really satisfying climax, and actually there's just this little nod at the end that you know, that there could have been more books. I doubt it at this point, being that this was written in the early 90s. I don't think we're going to get another book, sadly. But I really love these. If you've been thinking about reading point horrors, this one is one I would recommend. I'd start from the first book because they are really closely linked to each other, and I'm just holding it out like this so you can look at the gorgeous cover. I really, really like this trilogy. Next, I read a book called Those We Drown. This was sent by the publisher Ink Road, so I really appreciate that. It's about a girl who gets to study on a cruise ship on a semester at sea, and she's really excited to be there with her friend, but things very quickly start going wrong. I really liked the romance storyline in this. I really liked the mystery. And I love the fact that it is founded on Greek mythology. There are lots of Greek mythology references on the ship, and as the story unwinds, without giving too much away, that is linked to Greek mythology as well. It is creepy, atmospheric. I loved the fact that they're on a ship and there's no escape. I thought that this was a really great book. I'm not sure if it's a debut, but I'm definitely going to check out more books by Amy Goldsmith because I really liked it. And finally, I read Where Sleeping Girls Lie. This is the follow-up to Ace of Spades, which was an incredible success, and I'm sure that this book is going to be massive as well because I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It's very thick, which I was a little bit nervous about, but actually lots is packed into this book. The pace is really good, even though it's a long book. There's lots of intrigue, lots of mystery, a very atmospheric, dark academia feel to it. I loved the characters and how they were developed, and the interrelationships between them were really interesting. I really enjoyed trying to figure out who was responsible, and I wasn't disappointed by the ending. I liked the fact as well, without saying too much again, that there are some little bits of mixed media in this that just added a little extra dimension to the plot, and it made it feel like you were trying to solve the mystery alongside the main character Sade. So I'd highly recommend this one. It comes out in April, and I'm really appreciative of Osborne sending me this early copy. It's a proof, and then the finished copy got a bit mangled because I was reading it, you know, on the go. This is the finished copy cover, absolutely gorgeous. So that is it. That is my reads for January, a real mixture of book clubs, some early copies of books, some books that I've been wanting to read for a while, like Rachel Harrison's. So let me know in the comments if you have read any of those books, if you think that there are any books I would like based on the ones that I've read this month. As always, likes and subscribes are really appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!